Hello, YouTube. CJ here, and I just saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for the first time, surprisingly, actually. I've never seen that movie before until just before this review. Um, but I wanted to see if the movie holds up well, and honestly, for the most part, I would say it does. One of the first things I noticed about the movie is that it has astoundingly good animation considering how old the movie is. I mean, this was the 1930s. I'm pretty sure this was one of the first animated films of all time, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least the first ones, or at least one of the first ones that was that long. And the animators are just showing off throughout this whole movie. Like, the way water moves is like really good looking. The way the characters move, the way Snow White's dress moves, everything like looks right. Like everything looks very good. The animation is very fluid and very impressive. I was actually amazed by how well the animation in this movie holds up. However, I was expecting the story to be incredibly boring, and in a way I was right, but also not. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, the story is kind of the whole, cliche story of Snow White that I'm pretty sure everybody knows. So, the story of Snow White is the same story that I'm pretty sure everybody already knows. You don't have to have seen this movie to know what the story of Snow White is. It's a story that's been parodied in so much media over time that there's pretty much no way that anyone watching doesn't know at least the basic story. However, despite having a generally dull story, there's a lot of fun little, almost slice of lifey type moments of Snow White just hanging out with the Seven Dwarf characters and just watching them sort of dancing to the music. Um, which, by the way, the music is another thing I enjoyed in this movie. It's definitely very old fashioned, but it's pretty catchy and um, I don't know. I've always like one thing I kind of like about some older animation is I get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing sort of animations that sort of move to music. Um, like that's also a reason that I think I like animated music videos so much as well. And of course, you get a lot of that in older animated films like this. The dwarf characters are all pretty fun. Um, there's one character, Grumpy, who, um, I mean, I'm just gonna be straight up. At least at the start of the movie, he's basically just the he's basically just kind of misogynist. Even so, it's very fun just kind of watching the characters interact. There's a lot of funny gags in the movie. Not really all of them land. Um, there's like, a lot of old slapstick sort of humor in this movie. However, the story outside of these little slice of life type moments that you get, which is basically just the entire middle part of the movie, is just slice of life type moments. The ending of the movie and all parts of the movie that are part of the that are like the well-known parts of the Snow White story are all the parts I found most boring, which is probably because these parts of the movie are parts that you've heard about so much and that I've heard about so much that they're just not really interesting anymore. Um, but I would also say the quality of writing really just doesn't hold up in the same way. I mean, of course, you have the whole cliche thing at the end where the queen turns or like disguises herself as an old lady and tricks Snow White into eating a poison apple. And honestly, like from the point where like Snow White bites the apple onward, I found the movie very boring because I already knew what was gonna happen. I was like, all right, now some dude's gonna come along, he's gonna kiss her, and then she's just gonna wake up, yada yada. You know, there's no surprises here. It's the story of Snow White. Um, but another thing that I found kind of stupid is the guy who kisses her is this prince who you see very briefly at the start of the movie, but other than that little brief bit at the start, he's not in the movie almost at all. Like, this movie doesn't build up like to this kiss at all in any way. It really feels like some random guy that the audience knows nothing about is the one who like shows up and saves Snow White, and it's just like, who the fuck is this dude? um, so that definitely felt kind of weird. I will say there was a lot I liked about the way um that the evil queen who also turns into the evil old lady at the end of the movie was animated. And I also like the chase scene where like dwarves are trying to chase her down to make sure Snow White's okay and all that. But there's this scene where they chase her to the edge of a cliff and lightning strikes the cliff. It breaks. She just falls down, and the dwarfs have like a look on their face where they they just have like this horrified look when they look down at the edge of the cliff where we're like, oh shit, we just killed that lady. You like, it's just funny because in a lot of other ways it feels like a kids movie, and then you see that and it's like, wow, I feel like you wouldn't see that in a kids movie today. But I feel like from my I actually haven't seen a lot of older Disney movies, surprisingly, but from my understanding, a lot of older ones are a lot darker. I have seen Dumbo, but not for a very long time, and I remember that movie having quite a bit of darkness to it, let's just say. But yeah, honestly, the animation is very fun. Most of the scenes are fun, though I found myself bored through some parts of the movie, especially the more predictable parts. But the movie overall was quite enjoyable. I would give it overall a 7 out of 10. And in a way, I almost feel guilty giving it that score, given, how historically sort of meaningful to animation this movie is, and given just how impressive the quality of the animation is. But I would still say 7 out of 10 is a pretty impressive score for a movie this old. Because I do personally find it's very hard for me to feel like a lot of older movies hold up with how predictable they often end up being. But yeah, with that said, guys, 7 out of 10 is my score for this movie. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.